superlatives time for week 5. We hand out awards. Some of them are truly positive. Some of them are a way to backhand a team that deserves to be. Let's start with Myles. What do you have for me?
I think all of mine are actually ways to backhand a team and or a player and or a coach. But we'll start with the aforementioned game that we're talking about at the end of the last segment. Brandon Staley's Chargers versus the Browns. And I don't know what Brandon Staley was doing, but I do know that he was lucky to escape, because when you go for it on 4th and 1 in your own territory, when the Browns don't have any timeouts, yes, you're trying to end the game, but if you don't get it, you're basically saying, here, Browns, here's a really big opportunity where all you've got to do is complete one 10-yard pass, and you are in the range of a very makeable field goal for a kicker that was drafted in the first round and hit a 57, 58-yard field goal in week 1 to end the game. So before I eviscerate him even more, let's hear from Brandon Staley on his thought process in in making and going for it on 4th down.
4th down just really felt like, the slant to Mike was going to be the play call there, and just didn't go down for us. But I had a lot of confidence in our defense to go out there and get them stopped, and that was a big motive because we knew they would have to throw the ball to beat us, and we felt like we could cover them. And I love the way that our team finished that game because obviously the storybook would have been just to finish it right there, all right, and to walk to victory lane, but that's not how it went.
You didn't cover them. You didn't do it. They didn't do any of that. They should have lost the game. And I was going back and forth with former Raiders exec Amy Trask on this last night. She said that she would have had to be restrained from firing him before he got on the plane. That was a boneheaded decision, and I get why you want to end the game on your own terms. But if you're facing a backup quarterback and you got 110 and they have no timeouts, make them drive the length of the field. Conventional wisdom makes sense sometimes, and that's when it really would have.
Well, and this gets back to what we were talking about earlier, that I wonder at what point someone is going to just take a knee after they tie a game up with 2 minutes left in regulation, thinking that they have a better chance of winning in overtime than trying to defend the team that will be in 4-down territory all the way down until they kick the game-winning field goal and walk off. But this whole thing of it's 53% chance likely you'll win if you go for it, it's 52% if you punt. Very few coaches in the history of the sport, other than maybe George Halas, who owned the team, have the luxury of hanging around long enough for all those numbers to come to fruition. You don't have 1,000 games where, hey, if we do it 1,000 times, we're going to be right a few more times than we aren't. You have to know in that moment what the right thing to do is. And he got lucky because the rookie kicker missed the field goal that would have delivered a victory, and maybe they would have fired him before he got to the plane if they had lost that game. I mean, the end result, well, no. But Sean Payton is lurking. And more decisions like that, and Sean Payton's going to be doing more than lurking. Because really, of all the teams out there, would the Chargers not be one of the ones at the top of his list with Justin Herbert and what they have there, if they can figure out why guys are getting injured all the time? And I love Brandon Staley as a coach, but some of these decisions, you kind of outthink yourself. You rely too heavily on the analytics, and you put yourself and your team in a bad spot, and then you have to explain it after the fact. And even though it worked, it still is one of those things where if you're a Chargers fan, you're wondering, what the hell were we thinking there? Why did we do that?
Keenan Allen was wondering what the hell they were thinking on Twitter, very publicly. And so, they're lucky that they won that game, man. They're really lucky they won that game. And if you're gonna go for it on 4th down, as I take up too much time in this segment, why not run it? You're averaging 7 yards a carry. What are you doing? Throwing it was just absolutely the wrong choice in that situation.
We saw that Thursday. We saw it in the early game yesterday. We talked about Aaron Jones expressing that concern and question about not running the ball. What happened to running the ball when you need a yard and you have guys who can get a yard if you need a yard? My first one is, and I really don't know how best to phrase this, thou shalt not touch Tommy, maybe, the 11th commandment, as etched on to the stone tablets by referee Jerome Boger. Now, look, Boger has a reputation for calling it very aggressively when it's time for roughing the passer. But what is this? What is this? This is a tackle of a 6'5" quarterback. And it was a key moment in the game. It extended the drive. Grady Jarrett tackles Tom Brady. Tom Brady tries to kick him in the nuts like he once did with Ed Reed. He got fined for kicking Ed Reed there several years ago. Brady, look at Brady, impetuous little tamper. Look, jamming his leg up into the crotch of Grady Jarrett. He should be fined for that. We'll see if he is. But even before we get to that, Grady Jarrett doing his job, tackling the guy. There was nothing. It was funny because they asked Jerome Boger after the game, Greg Allman, who was the pool reporter, to explain it. And it was he tackled him unnecessarily. Well, what was unnecessary about it? And he tried to give him a lifeline and say, hey, is this kind of like what happened with Tua where you get whipsawed down to the ground and you hit your head? No, not necessarily. That's not, no. Just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Unnecessarily threw him to the ground. What's unnecessary about it? He's tackling him. He didn't put his body weight on him. He didn't do the Turkey Joe Jones, dump him on the top of his head, Terry Bradshaw style from the 70s. He just tackled him. And Arthur Smith said it best, the coach of the Falcons. After the game, he's not going to get himself fined. He just wants to know how to coach his players. Right. What do you tell them? Do you tell them when Jerome Boger is the referee, just don't touch the quarterback at all, lest you be penalized 15 yards for illegal touching of the quarterback?
It's unacceptable from an officiating standpoint when you have teach tape, and that's basically what the teach tape is. It's grab and twist, right? There's nothing unnecessary about tackling a quarterback when you're trying to make a play. And the fact that that's what the word he used, unnecessarily throwing him to the ground, there is nothing unnecessary about that, because if he lets Tom Brady go, then Tom Brady can still complete a pass. So what are we doing here? Is he just supposed to be in the grass? Are you supposed to give Tom Brady a warm embrace and then say, oh, this is it. This is all we're going to do here. No, it's still football. He's got to be hit. He's got to be tackled to the ground. Otherwise, the play is not over.
I don't know what they can do about this, and I'll be very interested to see if there is any reporting or discussion about what the league office thinks of this, but this is not the way to officiate the game. I know we want to keep the star players upright and functional as long as possible. This isn't the way to do it. All right, give me another one.
All right, let's go with is this the end superlative for the Carolina Panthers and head coach Matt Rule, because, man, it's just getting worse and getting worse. And at this point, it feels like there's only one way that this is going to end. And frankly, it's kind of felt that way throughout the entire offseason. When you bring in no one else but Ben McAdoo to run your offense, there's a reason for that. When you have to trade for Baker Mayfield in the middle of the offseason as the actual offseason, right? We're not talking about April. We're not even talking about May. It's July when he finally gets there, and he has almost only about 6 weeks to really get ready for the season. It just never felt like it was going to be good. The Panthers are now 1-27 under Matt Rule when they allow at least 17 points in a game. That is absurd. And we're 3 seasons into this. Just doesn't seem like it's going to work. I just have to wonder, when is David Tepper going to pull the ripcord there? Because at a certain point, it behooves both the Panthers and Matt Rule for both parties to just move on.
Well, and one of the reasons why David Tepper should do it now, and I tweeted this last night, if everything I've come to believe about David Tepper is true, he will do it now. The sooner you put Matt Rule on the market for one of the college jobs that will inevitably be available and already are available,
right,
the sooner he's making money from someone else and reducing the buyout obligation. If you hold on to Matt Rule through the end of the season, or specifically through the end of the college hiring cycle, your buyout is going to be greater next year and beyond for Matt Rule. So you get him out there at a time when there is interest, there will be interest. He's a great college coach. He's just not suited to coach in the NFL, and that's fine. That's fine.
It is.
He needs to accept it, and he needs to go to a place where he can thrive. He's clearly not thriving at the NFL level. This was another grand experiment that, it's funny. Every time this happens, there are pockets of the media that just – I think they're just wired to assume it's going to work because they want access to the guy, frankly. And it's this stand up and applaud, whether it's Urban Meyer, whether it's Matt Rule. We stand up and applaud this move, hedging the bets against the possibility that it works. And how often does it ever really work that a coach comes from college and gets it done at a high level on a sustained basis in the NFL. It just hasn't worked for Matt Rule. And I think that for everyone's sake, and Matt Rule will probably be relieved when it happens. It's just time. They're not going to get better. They may as well go ahead and make the move. And I would do it today if I'm David Tepper.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.